Here we go.
This is the part where we set up and move around. I don't know where I put my coffee, which is upsetting because it's called synthetic coffee break, and I specifically get coffee
For
for a
this.
visual thing.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm gonna have to just not have coffee because I think I put it in the other room, which is deeply embarrassing that I have one prop for this. And like a prop that we've talked about before. We've covered the coffee mugs and my opinion on coffee mugs.
We have, yeah. That
And,
was a
I,
big
and I'm
topic
just
at one
overly
time.
upset about that. But instead, so I can start sooner. Hi Andrew.
Hello, Brandon.
Get that timer out. There we go. Start
All right.
that time.
It started.
Oh geez.
There we go. All right, cool.
I shouldn't do a variation on it. That's a clarity thing moving forward. Just say hi Brandon, hi Andrew, start that timer.
Yeah, in some cases it's good to be regimented, I think.
I think like we made a rule for this, and then
Yeah.
suddenly I was like, what if I broke this rule?
All of a sudden you were like,
And
this is jazz. I'm gonna go a little bit improv here.
this is jazz. I'm gonna go nuts. I understand what happened. Well, I've read so many books about jazz, and I enjoy it sonically. But if like when bullet hits bone, I don't understand what's going on here. Like I, I'm like, yeah, this is nice, but like I've had, and it's one of those things. Like I sometimes I kind of sort of think I know what I'm talking about, right?
Mhm.
And then I talk to someone who does it for real, and I'm like, oh, I have no idea how any of this works. So in the next 15 minutes, Andrew, I would like you to explain jazz to me.
That's today's topic. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, well,
Andrew explains jazz for 15 minutes. Like I understand the improv part of it, but there's a lot more to it
yeah.
than just like, oh, you're making stuff up.
Well, yeah, there's definitely a lot more to it than that. But uh there and what's interesting actually is, people talk about classical musicians sort of being um slaves to theory and stuff like that. But actually, I think that jazz musicians actually have more theory training and incorporate theory in a more practical way. I'm talking
Uh-huh.
about music theory, in a more practical way than classical musicians do, which is kind of fascinating. But before we get into that, because we're going to bore our listeners, I think what I'm interested in is like how you you're as a person who you seem to appreciate jazz,
I
so
do appreciate
yeah.
jazz. Yeah.
Yeah, what is it that you appreciated about it, and why do you think you don't understand it, I guess?
Okay, so first thing, I legitimately do appreciate that there
Yeah.
is all that theory to it. Like there's something, you know, um, I don't remember who told this to me, but I think the idea that you can break music into three different groups is a very helpful one, which is like music for listening, music for dancing, music for thinking. And like music can touch all three of those groups, whatever you're listening to. But if you're like, oh, if you were to use, we're going to use big, easy names, okay? If you
Yeah.
were to
Mhm.
compare John Cage's music, which, everyone loves to do, to, I don't know, uh, Pink Floyd, let's say, which is music
Mhm.
to listen to Bad Bunny, you would have a bad time.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that the those three versions of music can't. Okay, so you have those three ways of thinking about music: music for listening, music for dancing, music for thinking about.
Mhm.
And I think a good jazz song, especially if you see it live, which really does have a really cool energy to it, like seeing a jazz like a pickup show at an open mic pickup show at a bar or something has a lot of energy.
Mhm.
That there's a lot of theory going on, a lot of thinking, but also that I don't might not even grab all of it. Like what's happening now? I understand that they're
Mhm.
passing the solo around and they're passing two bars, or what is it, four bars you pass back and forth, and the competitive, the lovely competitive nature of it, and that's all
Yeah.
really cool. But also, uh, boy, I like doing this and kind of moving with it,
Yeah.
and its ability to be music to think about for people and music to dance to
Mhm.
me is a really cool mix because like I like big esoteric things. I like, oh,
Yeah.
what is this all about? But sometimes you make stuff that is so heady that it's fun to talk about it,
Mhm.
but to actually do it is not as enjoyable.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think a good live jazz, and also one of the things that's nice about it is how wide a statement jazz is. Like,
Mhm.
and like I get it, it's a pretentious thing to like. I understand, and then look at me, I'm probably pretty pretentious. Um, but
Sorry, hold on one second.
oh, God, I'm
Oh, okay.
nailing it right now. And then this is the part where Brandon just goes on his own. He can say whatever he wants, and Andrew won't know what's going on with this podcast until he comes back. And that's really exciting. And honestly, this might be another lost episode. It's a real opportunity for a secret episode that's happening right now. He might cut this part out, which is also acceptable. And yeah, so I think that really sums up what I feel about jazz and sort of how it affected my life. Yeah. So what do you have to say?
Um, okay, sorry. I can cut that out, or maybe not. It sounded like you were filling the time just then. Okay.
You know what? Either or, we'll either cut it or don't cut it. It's all great. So yeah,
Okay.
that's what I like about it is there's all these ideas, and like I like music, but I hate people who are like music is my life, and I'm like, well, what instrument do you play? And they're like, none. I'm like, it might not be your life then. Um, so
Well,
I'm
I
not
think,
that guy, but I like it a lot, and I like that there's stuff going on there. So what do you have to say about it?
well, and I think
Do
that's
you like
interesting
it?
because I like, uh, well, I do like jazz. I don't think that I would consider myself like a jazz musician,
Hmm.
because like I can I feel I think my strengths are in other areas is how
Hmm.
I would put it. Yeah, I think. Um, but yeah, of course I appreciate it. And I think there's I think there's a lot of really good jazz out there. There's I mean just like anything else, there's a lot of bad jazz as well. But um, but I think what's interesting because I really like this. I've never heard those three different categories of music, but I
Hmm.
really like them actually. And I think what you were starting to get into is actually kind of what I was thinking about. I think the best music is actually music that either combines two or possibly even all three, um, of those categories, I think, because I think that sort of gives it a little bit more of a level than maybe uh, music that just exists in only one category, I would
I
say.
will say that what music that touches two or three of the categories
Mhm.
is has a specific fulfilling flavor to it.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I don't want to negate someone's like Kesha's probably, as music to dance to. You have a good time with it. I don't want to gate that, but there is a if you can hit two of the three, there's
Mhm.
a real lovely feeling for it. And also, learning this is a really important thing I think to learn. You, if you're ever handed the aux, as the kids say, and you're like, oh, I don't want to screw this up. The way you don't screw this up is look around and realize what type of music everyone is listening to at that point.
Mhm. Mhm.
So like if they're listening to dance, if they're listening to music to dance to, and you go music to listen to, even if it's more like, and I think all music is probably those three categories, one, two of those categories, at least a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to
Exactly.
negate the fact that the person who made it is thinking about it.
Mhm.
The only exception to that is that cover that just their remake of Blue Dabba Diva Da. There's no thought in that. Only if it comes on, you only dance. There's no thought. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
The original, tons of thought. That remake, I feel good. I think it's called. I don't care if I'm old when I say this. It is it is not music to listen, not music to think
Yeah.
about.
Well,
Uh,
and the other thing is I think that a lot of it, uh, a lot of what music falls into into those categories and how you interpret or how you put music into those categories probably says more about the person who's listening
mhm.
than the music itself, I would say,
Well, and
because
also
and
it
how you
says
respond to it. Yeah.
it's also like about the intention because like
Yeah.
yes, you could certainly do an entire think piece and explore what Euro techno is. And
Mhm.
that's just, an example. But like there also you have to ask yourself the intention behind them. This is an
Yeah.
intention thing. And
Right.
I know not all art can be judged by intention, but I think
Yeah.
while talking about the three, you can actually really think about the intention of what the
Yeah.
person making it was trying to do while making it.
Yeah.
It is an intention question.
mhm.
Do they want me to dance? Do they want me to sit around and just go, "Oh man, this is really interesting stuff," or do they want me
Mhm.
to go, "What is the very concept of music?" And like, if you have questions about that intention,
Mhm.
that really like will clear up how at least
Yeah,
they want you to interact with it, and at which point you can decide how to interact with it however you want, you know?
right. Yeah, and I think yeah, exactly. Yeah, because if it's John Cage and you want to dance to it, which actually a lot of people did dance to it,
Mhm,
then it's which is actually kind of interesting. Now this sort of brings into another category because what is the intention of someone like John Cage,
mhm.
where in some cases actually he was fulfilling those two categories because he worked with that famous choreographer
Corey.
Merce Cunningham, right?
Yep, yeah, you
Yeah,
nailed it, dude. I was gonna go the one,
the one, yeah.
Yeah,
I almost did
like
that, but I took a risk.
yeah, and I guess that is nah, yeah, I think you're right. I guess that is an example of like, but then, and what's great, it's great because we're gonna blow this whole thing up.
Exactly.
Then
Yeah,
you
we
have to
are.
go, what is the intention of art on the back end? Because John Cage did have a choreographer that he worked with a whole lot. I believe was his partner. I don't want to say. I think that's right.
I
Uh,
think that's right as well. Yeah. Mhm.
and was his partner, but the type of dance now, the type of dance that
Right.
John Cage, his partner, was
Yeah.
doing, uh,
Was not the
was
type of dance that you're talking about,
is
right?
not, which is
Yeah.
and like then, which is, man, you sit us two down and maybe we can talk about jazz, but the
Right.
different types of dance, we are doomed, sir. Like this is
Yes.
not a category
Exactly.
that we have,
Yeah.
and like we just like you show up for dance and I'm like, oh, ooh, that's
Right.
a
Right.
big heavy thing, dude.
Yeah.
What can it do? Like at some point, like what is it? Sometimes dance is just seeing how much the body can do, and you're like,
Mhm.
that doesn't sound like what I think dance is.
Right. Exactly.
But so by attempt,
That's the other thing, like because what we're actually doing is even though we're talking about these three categories of music and we just moved into this weird category because now like you could say the same thing about maybe dance. Like there's dance that you should think about. There's dance that you should just have fun to, or whatever the third category would be. And now we're sort of merging those ideas into a really weird way.
perhaps art can be viewed
Mhm.
in three and only three ways. Perhaps we have figured out that art can only be viewed as
That's
something
all.
to have a fit, something to have a entirely emotional reaction to,
Mhm.
something to have a mix of emotions. So this is the dance.
Mhm.
Something to
Right.
have a mix of emotional and physical reaction to. This is the
Mhm.
listen, and something to have a completely a mental reaction to,
Mhm.
and that's the thing. We have broken it down. It is a spectrum of three, and
A
it can
spectrum.
go up and down the
Exactly. Yeah.
spectrum of
Yeah.
three. But we figured out
Mhm.
on this podcast today.
It's more, yeah, maybe I guess depending on how you're looking at the spectrum, it's more like sort of a Venn diagram of some sort. But
Okay, okay, a
yeah,
Venn diagram
yeah.
works. I was thinking of like a temperature thing because
Oh,
you
a
can
temperature. Yeah,
place
yeah,
it
exactly.
at
Yeah,
different spots of the temperature and go, oh,
right.
this. It's the think feel. I hate this. I hate.
But the thing is, it's a temperature gauge that like goes in a circle.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
why
temperature gauge that's a U. It's a U, right?
yeah, exactly.
It's a U. It's a horseshoe, and
It
then
is.
you
Yeah,
run it up and down the horseshoe. I don't. What I
yeah,
here's what I don't like about this specifically. It's two
yeah.
things. One, I think we like figured out a metric that
Mhm.
could sincerely be used, and that A is uh not good. It's
Yeah.
frustrating. It's
Mhm.
frustrating because there's part of my brain that's going to think like this from here on out. I'm going to
Mhm.
have the horseshoe in my
Exactly.
brain. And
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
other part is like, I'm almost entirely sure this could be on a standardized test. Like I've made art that can be on a
Exactly. Yeah.
standardized, like a
Yeah.
way to look at art is a standardized test of a U, and you have to like pointed on the U, and
Exactly. Yeah.
like, oh buddy, like you started so good and you ended on standardized tests with just a bunch of U's, and you listen to a short piece of music and then
And
you
then you have
plug
to figure
where
out
you
where
feel
that goes. Yeah.
on the
Exactly.
U, and then I have a U that is the universal U, and we place the RU on top of it, and however close you are is how
Mhm.
right you are. I've done a terrible thing, Andrew. I
Well,
yonkoed it, dude. I
I,
yonkoed it. I made it evil.
exactly. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, like, that I'm sure an algorithm could actually figure out exactly where that dot goes. So this truly is a Yonko. We
Yeah,
really did
we might
arrive
need
at
to
a
put out
Yonko.
a handful of the songs we do. We might need
Yeah,
to have the U next to it on how it is supposed to be enjoyed on
yeah.
the listen think scale. Uh,
I think we need to start doing that. Yeah.
I I
We don't do much for social media, so that can be that can be our
that's
social
yeah.
media.
It's just we just have a scale the dance think scale with
Mhm.
listen in the center,
Yeah.
and I'll mock it up tonight. Like
Please do. Please do.
I'm not pleased. Like you
I'm,
know
I'm not pleased in the sense that, you know, as a teacher or a student, I don't think I would like this. But as the Yonko LLC, I do like this.
I
So
like the idea of
I'm
like I
pleased in
have made
that
a
way. Yeah.
teaching implement. Do you think when they made standardized tests and they saw the bubbles, the people that made it were like, "What have we done?" Like
No, I don't think that that was that at all. I think they were probably very pleased with themselves.
they were like,
But there was this one guy, who was like, this is like the A bomb
"Yeah."
of,
That's all I can think is the dudes that made the A bomb where they're like, "And now we are
yeah,
God." Like,
exactly. Yeah.
could you imagine like the first standardized test that runs through the machine and like one dude's like, "I don't know,
Yeah,
guys.
exactly.
This
Everybody
one."
else is like high fiving.
They're all high fiving, and you just
Yeah,
see him like go back inside himself. Like
yeah.
this is. They're like, we can standardize what tests are. They're like this is. We can use this for all knowledge. And he's like, no. And then he
No,
like goes
no.
back. And he like starts to sketch the U.
Yeah, and
Uh,
he tries to fix it, but it's just too late.
it's
It's
too.
Pandora's box.
He sabotages one machine, and they're like, "Oh, look, he sabotages the machine. All the answers that would be right are actually wrong, and it actually doesn't change anything about standardized testing. Like,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter if all the answers are right or all the answers are wrong for the standardized test. It is
It's
standardized.
still
It,
standardized. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
still it doesn't matter if the standard is right or wrong. It matters that there is a standard.
exactly. That is what the standard is about.
Yeah. Hey, what are we doing on time?